The thickness of Trump's bronzer, blondness of his hair may distract you from what's going on under there, which is a brain, right? It's a brain. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes the brain does function. It does, okay? We see that. Sometimes it's functioning. And sometimes, like what we're going to show you here, the functioning comes to a screeching halt. And get ready, because these clips are bonkers. This comes from, if you'll take that down, Jaden, but then throw it up again for this. This comes from Trump's trip to the Middle East. He started in Saudi Arabia, then went to Qatar, now is in United Arab Emirates, and he's getting all of the pomp and circumstance. My goodness, he's having the time of his life. But meanwhile, in all of these events, some particularly concerning moments are coming of them, and we'll kind of check in on a couple different moments. But let's start with Brian Tyler Cohen, because you saw all the imagery there of him with all the parades and the people cheering, and he's eating this up, I want you to know, okay? And because he's obsessed with imagery. That's what these deportations have become about. That's what this is about. Brian Tyler Cohen posting Trump is spending $92 million on a birthday military parade. We don't know if that's a number for sure, different estimates, but it could get up to that. And plastering his face on the sides of government buildings. Washington, D.C. is becoming Pyongyang, North Korea. And as you can see there in the image, I'll describe for our podcast listeners, in front of a government building, Trump's face is being plastered.
Okay, I'm going to throw up. I'm throwing up. You're making me throw up.
That was my reaction, verbatim. So let's just start with this clip. Then we'll get to his groceries thing. Then we'll get to him trying to pronounce a name of somebody. And then one of the weirdest word salads I've seen in a while. Here's him claiming that Hitler delivered a speech at the Eiffel Tower. Do you remember that in history class?
For World War I, because we won that war too. But think of it, now, we love France, right? But I think we did a little more to win the war than France did. Do we agree? I don't want to be a wise guy. But when Hitler made his speech at the Eiffel Tower, I would say that wasn't exactly ideal. And I called up the president.
The famous speech in front of the Eiffel Tower, or at the Eiffel Tower. It's really a fascinating moment in history. If it had happened, Trump claims Hitler gave a speech at the Eiffel Tower. He didn't. So that's that. I don't know where he got that from, but he just kind of pulled it out of the Big Mac depository, as it's called. And that was in front of U.S. soldiers. Who knows why he starts ranting about those random things in front of U.S. soldiers who are stationed in Qatar. Then in UAE, he told the UAE president, "You may not know this because you're from a different country, but we have in the United States this funky little word, very old-fashioned word called groceries."
It's jobs, because to me the most important jobs. I want jobs. And we have costs are way down. Groceries, they have a term grocery. It's an old term, but it means basically what you're buying, food. It's a pretty accurate term, but it's an old-fashioned sound. But groceries are down, costs are down.
They're not down, but it's such just sort of the way, it's so unique. Like I never hear people use it. Like I never hear people say, "Hey, Luke, I'm going to the grocery store. Hey, do you have a grocery list? Hey, do you need any groceries?" Like I never hear that phrase, those phrases. They're so unique and so beautiful and so terrible and so much atrocities associated with that old-fashioned word. I don't think Trump knows what old-fashioned means.
It's like sort of an old-fashioned word, groceries. Groceries, a term I used to use, it's sort of an old-fashioned term. The groceries went way up, an old-fashioned word, but it's a very descriptive word. I haven't used the word grocery. It's like an old-fashioned word. The cost of groceries, a word that I used a lot on the campaign. It's like an old-fashioned word, but it's a beautiful word, very descriptive word. He said, "You're a kind person." I said, "I've never heard that before. I've been called a lot of things, but it's sort of a different kind of a word. It's like an old-fashioned word."
Yeah, kind. It's weird. I only ever, there's some words that used to be normal to say. I'm not going to say them, but like they used to be normal and now they're kind of slurs. And so then you'll be around your older relatives and they'll say one and you're like, that's like grandfathered in, right? Like they're allowed to say that. I can't say that. But like, just bear with, like blacks. We don't say blacks now. You prefer to say black people. Or my favorite African American, as Trump would say. But like if my relative uses it, it's sort of, all right, I don't think they're saying that maliciously. I think it's just kind of an old fashioned word. That's how right? Kind is very similar. Like people used to use kind. That's not so familiar. Kind and groceries are very, are very old fashioned in a sense, you know, like you don't really ever hear people using those. What is happening? U.S. president, ladies and gentlemen, and we're not even close to done. Before we go further though, please do click the subscribe button, support the show, the like button. If you have something to say, comment it. You know how all those things, algorithms, I don't know. I hate the algorithms. They got me down. A lot of you are watching, but we're still getting pushed down. Shadow ban. Get us out of our shadow ban by clicking the buttons. I'm inspired by other YouTubers. All right. Then here you have Trump talking about how our planes and different vehicles are created so they can go stealth mode. And he doesn't like the way that stealth looks.
Ever made. And so I want to do that. And sometimes, stealth, they do stealth. I'm not a huge believer in stealth because stealth is basically a lot of it's the design and the shape. And, I'm sure you maybe think, but also if that's the case, they're going to figure it out pretty fast, I think. So you're going to design an ugly plane for stealth reasons, and then 6 months later, they're going to figure out this, and then you're stuck with a plane. Now we're doing a super F-22, and we're going to be going with it pretty quickly. And what the hell was that?
Beats me, but let me read you just the transcript real quick of what was just said. And so I want to do that. And sometimes, stealth, they do stealth. I'm not a huge believer in stealth because stealth is basically a lot of, it's the design and the shape. And I'm sure you maybe think, but also if that's the case, they're going to figure it out pretty fast, I think. So you're going to design an ugly plane for stealth reasons, and then 6 months later they're going to figure out this, and then you're stuck with a plane. Now we're doing a super F-22, and we're going to be going with it pretty quickly. It's a thought. It's an interesting thought for sure. And then Trump claimed throughout this trip one stat about how many districts he won versus the Democrats. But every time he would say it, it would be different.
We won everything. We won a thing called that people don't like districts. So in the country, you have districts, thousands of districts. We got 2,000.
People hate that.
750 districts versus 525 districts.
So ASIN put this together and put on screen. All right, so keep those numbers in your head. 2,750 to 525.
Think of that. That's why when you look at a map, it's actually a very important stat. When you look at a map, the map shows it's practically all red, the Republican difference. And very importantly, we won counties throughout the United States, 2,660 to 451. That's why when you look at a map, they're all red. So the whole country is red. Red stands for Republican. We won 2,750 districts. We call them districts out of
an old-fashioned word. I haven't heard that one in a while.
A total, if you look at the number, it was 2,750 to 505. The whole map was red meaning Republican. We won the counties throughout the United States, 2,660 to 451. That's why when you see the maps, they're all bright red meaning Republican. We won all 7.
Okay, you get the point. It keeps changing. The same stat keeps changing. Now, this whole thing of if you put counties or districts on a map and then you see which way it went, red or blue, and then a bunch of the country looks red and it looks like a lot of blue splotches, it's because a lot of these areas that vote Republican have like 3 people in them, but a bunch of empty land. And so there's a bunch of empty land that makes a bunch of things look red, but that's just land. Land don't vote. People do. The cows don't vote, the people do. And so I've seen this so many times. People say that there's a lot of Democrats, but look at this map. And it's like, yeah, because most people live in very tight geographical locations. And so that will just show up as a blue dot. But that doesn't mean they have any less value than you over in your big space, which great, happy for you, but not a good point. Similar to it's as aggravating as we're not a democracy, we're a republic point. Yes, and what's a republic? Okay. And here is Trump pronouncing a name. He's the best with names.
Just apprehended, as an example, the ISIS terrorist of the Albrecht Grab, the one that caused all of the problems. And
he's a bad one. He's a bad one. Now, whenever we go through these segments, I'll inevitably have tweeted out at me, or I'll just see someone posting counter clips like, well, what about Biden?
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world when you don't have that done?
Also interesting points, okay? Listen, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Trump is a deranged, policy incoherent, terrible president who also has crazy brain farts. Biden is a president who did a lot of solid things, also made huge mistakes, and has some crazy brain farts sometimes. Not the same, not equivalent. And we can assess both, ladies and gentlemen. We can assess both for their relative importance and magnitude. And honestly, they both make me giggle. Brian Tyler Cohen said, yes, I'm sure Qatar committed 6 times their entire GDP to the United States in response to the White House saying, the Trump effect, $1.2 trillion. President Donald J. Trump secures historic $1.2 trillion economic commitment in Qatar. And indeed, that is much larger than the entire GDP of Qatar. So credit to Trump. We're really excited. We'll see if that ends up manifesting or if it doesn't. Which it won't. But if it does, we will be excited. But we won't be excited because it won't. But if it did, I'd be happy. But I won't be happy because it won't. What's interesting is Trump has been so annoyed. Another important part of context, too, is some of these things maybe are new deals that Trump facilitated. Other parts of the things he's been announcing are things that have been in the works for years, but he's just really good at slapping his name on them and then blowing up the number out of proportion. So that's other important context. But here you have Trump, after spending so much time saying, I'm so annoyed that Europe thinks we should defend them and Canada thinks that we should defend them and that we should have any involvement in providing security for them. And then he goes to these nations and says, we're going to protect you. I mean, it's just a bizarre disconnect.
We are going to protect this country. It's a very special place with a special royal family, and the head of the royal family is 2 heads of the royal family, really, if you think. Great people. And they're going to be protected by the United States of America. And I think we're not going to have to do it because I believe very strongly in peace through strength. Now,
so he's talking there about militarily defending and countries that, by the way, are way less aligned with us on everything than the European allies that he's screaming about constantly. And he's fine with saying we should be defending them, but not fine with us cooperating with our European allies who have been there for us every step of the way to make sure their defense is emboldened. Very, very strange disconnect. Now, during this plane interview with Handy, a clip we didn't get to talk about was him saying if the country had elected Kamala, then it would be finished.
And no, I saw what they were doing. I felt I had to run. If I didn't run, I really believe if I didn't win this election, this country would be finished. I don't think it would have had a chance of surviving. You would have had the most radical lunatics. You would have had people rioting. It would have been this would have been the experiment of, they call it the Great Experiment. The Great Experiment would have ended very badly.
You personally.
So a couple things here. First of all, he says there would have been rioting by your people. It would have been really sad if I hadn't won because my people would have been violent. That's weird. But then also he's just saying in general, even though all of the positive aspects, for example, economically, that then he's doubting are because of the economy that he inherited just like the first time. And that's not a partisan. I know that sounds to people, if you're MAGA or if you're even just centrist but skeptical, which you should be fine, be skeptical. But it sounds like, oh, you're just finding every excuse to not credit Trump with anything. That's not what it is. It's just economically, as a matter of fact, the metrics that were observed as Obama was leaving office, and then the same thing as Biden's leaving office, set Trump up to then take credit for said metrics, which then he would go on to do. That's just a fact, and that's just what I'm saying. Okay, it's not a political point. It's not a partisan point. It's just a point. And then he says that you would have had the most radical level lunatics in power. Sure. Now, what I'm showing on screen, I'll describe for our podcast listeners, is Kamala Harris with Liz Cheney when they were campaigning together. I'm sure the person who was endorsed by Liz Cheney would be a radical left lunatic. Please. He's like, what do you even do? Share your thoughts in the comments. Get the bonus show by clicking that join button below.